John Fredericks, America's Godzilla of Truth. He's popular and proficient in picking politics with prophetic precision. And now J. Fred's picking sports. Are y'all ready for this? All across the airwaves and streams of the John Fredericks Media Network, John, Jack, and Nate, three guys that are pretty wise when it comes to picking winners. Football, basketball, baseball, soccer, golf, UFC battles, you name it. When the game is on your mind and money's on the line, Godzilla Wins is your guide to picking winners. Before you make that play, hear what J. Fred has to say. Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
Oh yeah, for entertainment purposes only.
All right, I want to welcome everybody to another edition of Godzilla Wins. I think we can officially call it a Saturday pick show again because we got March Madness everywhere. We're going to be picking all the games today. We'll be recapping a lot of the games from Thursday and Friday. Lots of upsets going on. Once again, where this show is brought to you by Godzilla Wins, but also WVSportsNation.com, where you can find everything about West Virginia sports. Pretty soon, I'm sure we're going to have the 16-inning loss the Mountaineer baseball team had at the end of the night last night. But anything you need, we got gymnastics rolling, wrestling's going on, women's basketball today against Columbia Lions. So that's going to be great. But excited to be bringing the show to you today. I'm Mitch Rogers. My co-hosts today are John Fredericks, Matthew Lumsden, and Kyle Carrington. Welcome to the show, everybody. And I look forward to it. This is the greatest weekend in all of sports. So, but before we get going, we're going to be doing picks. We're going to be giving our gambling picks too. So we have to do a little disclaimer here. So, gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537. Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Michigan, New Hampshire, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. 1-800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelpline-ma.org in Massachusetts. Call 877-GHOPE-NY, text HOPE-NY 467-369-NY. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-522-4700 in Kansas and New Hampshire, 1-888-789-777. Visit ccpg.org, Connecticut, 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, or visit opgr.org in Oregon. Now, that's the hardest thing to do. That's the thing I was most nervous about, John, when you asked me to host this, is these disclaimers. I don't even know all the state's acronyms, so that was, hopefully I got all those right when we were doing that. But John, thank you for giving me this opportunity, and it's fun.
First day as show host of Godzilla Wins. You're off to a rousing start.
No, it's great. Yeah, at least you gave me a weekend that we're chock full of sports, obviously with the NCAA tournament rolling, and also the women's tournament starting yesterday, and then also the sports is really taking off right now. And I'd be remiss if I didn't start. One of my heroes growing up passed away yesterday. So George Foreman, two-time heavyweight champion, who. And when I was in junior high, had his comeback, in 1987, and then eventually got the heavyweight title again. But I know that's a sports legend and a sports figure that's near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. And I know, John, last night when I heard that news, that's one that hit hard.
Well, those of us that remember George Foreman growing up, remembering him in the Olympics, I remember, this is one of the things of when you have me on, because I'm so old, 67, I've got such a memory. I remember listening to a fight on the radio. This was back in the day where you didn't have the apps and everything, and it was just on local. It was on local radio, and I was with my father, Sam, and it was George Foreman against George Chuvalo, and actually George Chuvalo is the guy that Rocky modeled after the film Rocky. Sylvester Stallone. That was one of his first professional fights after he won the Olympic gold medal for the United States. Was Chuvalo, who was Canadian, and no, actually the Rocky movie was made from the Bayonne Bleeder, and I now cannot remember his name, but I remember listening to him, and he beat Chuvalo in the second or the third round. He knocked him out. Chuvalo was a little bit older, and that was his first fight. And then I remember listening to him on the radio with all these fights. My father was a big boxing fan, so it's just sad to see him go. And he turned out as he got older, he was just the nicest. People that met him said he was one of the nicest guys ever. Same with Smoking Joe Frazier. And so, then of course we know him for the commercials he made, and so he was a spokesman for a lot of different things. But he was just a big teddy bear, and well loved guys by many people in my generation.
Yeah, and that in the documentary that won the Oscar when we were kings, that's how I first, that was my first foray into him. The Rumble in the Jungle and Muhammad Ali, and you got to really, when I first watched it, I really wanted to watch it just for Muhammad Ali. But then when it was done, George Foreman was the star of that. And like I said, in the '90s, that was, Mike Tyson goes to jail. All of a sudden, George Foreman comes back and does the unthinkable, wins at 42 years old, won the heavyweight title. And then you're right. And then the George Foreman grills, all of a sudden he was just a pop.
Yeah, the grills, that was it. I couldn't remember. Yeah, he did something else. He was something else, some kind of a patent thing. If you have an invention, call this number. He was a spokesman for that, for a new invention. But it was great following him in boxing. And, back then, prize fighting, as they called it, boxing, which was heavyweight, middleweight, flyweight, or whatever. I mean, there was no UFC and there was no kickers and all that. So it was just, you got in a ring, you put gloves on, you boxed. And that's what I remember growing up. My father, I said, a big fan, and he was such a part of that. And I saw so many fights. Then as I got older, they started putting them on what they called, it was before pay-per-view. It was paid, but in the theater. So you had to, it would be in the theater, like you would see a movie in the theater, but you would have to pay to get in. And my father took me to a ton of those. We'd, pay $5 and it would be on I think it was called Closed Circuit or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but it was actually in the movie theater. So that was a lot of fun.
And Kyle and Matthew, I don't know if when George Foreman won the title, that was right when UFC, I think UFC 2 had just taken off. So it was on the precipice of boxing kind of not being the combat sport of America and moving into UFC. There was kind of like the last bastion with Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis. And the fact that George Foreman, who was, in the 70s heavyweight boxer, was part of that, winning the title. And then after that, we've known boxing just went to what it is now, and it's still trying to pick up the pieces and come back. But gonna miss him. When I see some of these icons pass away, and that's young. I thought he was a little bit older than that, so it just makes me sad. But it's a great career, and it's time to move on. And so. I guess we can start off. We'll get it out of the way. This week I was on the John Fredericks radio show. Actually, did a hit for them because West Virginia. And if you want to get caught up in anything West Virginia, go to wvusportsnation.com. And West Virginia basketball had a week. So we got off the airwaves on Saturday. We thought most likely they're going to the NCAA tournament because 111 bracketologists picked the Mountaineers to go to the tournament. Well, on Sunday we found out, I know it's old news now, Sunday you find out they got snubbed. We know a guy named Bubba, North Carolina. So we've been through all of that. But then the unthinkable, 2 days later, Coach DeVries, there was all these rumors swirling around that he was going to go to his Iowa, who he loves. We would have kind of forgiven you for that, but he ends up going to Indiana. All of a sudden, West Virginia is without a coach. They get snubbed. The worst 72 hours since probably Coach Rodriguez left 20-some years ago. And now they're left picking up the pieces. I had time to marinate it a little bit. We've done a couple columns on it. Dan did a column and I did a column. And, basically the bottom line, when it comes down to it, Indiana is still considered a blue blood. Whether or not we want to argue that, they haven't had much success since 2002. That name, and especially if you're from the Midwest, goes a long way. So when I go back and think about it, sure, it stinks that Coach DeVries left us high and dry, but this has the makings that he was going to do it at some point. This wasn't his destination. This was a stepping stone to another job. If it didn't happen this year, I think it would have happened next year. But we're left to pick up the pieces. Matthew, what do you think we're going to do here? I mean, I have faith, that Ren's going to be able to figure this out. But what's the feeling on campus?
I mean, as you said, Ren's been through this far too frequently lately. So, I mean, I'm sure he's well versed with what he wants, what the best ideas are. I say go right back to the well. Ben McCollum, Matt Drake's a stud. He wins everywhere he goes. I say go right back to it. If you can get him, that's a big time win. He's going to have Pohl bring all those guys with him. And I mean, proven winner, can't go wrong there.
Kyle, what do you think?
I mean, it sucks, but honestly, I think that West Virginia will be fine. It's a love. Morgantown they love basketball. So I think you can find a guy. I'm not sure who that guy is, but you can find a guy in Morgantown and do well, just like DeVries did. You got to be happy for the guy. He went to a blue blood. I mean, 5 national championships in history. Indiana is a great place. So I think Morgantown will be fine. I think the DeVries will do fine. I think that everybody will win in the situation in the long run.
Screw
John.
DeVries.
Yeah.
You know what? You all want to be nice. Fine, right? We'll all be nice, right? Kumbaya. Let's go around and have a pillow fight. Okay, the guy screwed the university, but he signed a 5-year deal. He stayed for 1. We don't know the extent of the injury that his son had. So that is still a mystery. Nobody really disclosed it. He took a red shirt. He used him as leverage to get to wherever he went, Indiana, whatever. The guy's a terrorist as far as I'm concerned. He jilted the university. He jilted the fans. Why do you go somewhere and sign a 5-year contract and then, your son plays 5 games, you take him out. There's an injury. There's many people think he could have come back for the run at the end. He didn't want to do that because he's probably one of the best players right now in a college. He's going to get drafted. And so the dad had his son as tremendous leverage to go anywhere he wanted. And so, you know what? Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out, Coach. I've met you several times. I go to your luncheons, but I'm going to sit here and mince words. You screwed the city. You screwed the state. You screwed the universe. Why do you sign a 5-year contract? If you're there 2 years and leave, okay, or 3, or you get fired, you signed a 5-year deal. Why did you do that? Was that just a joke? Right. And then Indiana buys him out. They had a buyer. He bought them out. So you all can sit there and say, oh, yeah, he did the right thing. He went to a blue blood and they're in Indiana. That's all fine and good. Go there from Creighton or wherever you came from, right? Go there. Don't sign with us for 5 years. Have a really good season. Get everybody excited after the debacle we went through with Huggy Bear, drunk on the side of the road. That whole thing, we had to endure that. We had to endure a season with no players. Right, you finally get back. You have a great season. Ann and I and Joe went to the Bahamas to see them in the tournament. There's a lot of fans here that are pissed off, and I'm going to just sit here and say, "Oh, he went to a blue blood." And I get Dan's column, right? Dan's a great writer. He's got his opinion. I've got mine. He screwed us, and the hell with him.
No, I mean, and that was my feelings when it initially happened. I was my text messages to everybody had a few colorful 4-letter words flying through, and I agree. I mean, it's you would just hope that you would teach your son a different lesson, not just always take the opportunity and take the money, that you would also teach them, hey, have some loyalty. This program's been through a lot, and maybe, just maybe, we can stick it out with them. But it feels like this was in the works for a couple months, because you had the Iowa rumors coming, which now I believe it was true, but it's almost just to put that out there into the ether, like, okay, you might leave. But in his press conference, he spoke about Indiana being respectful the last 30 days to not bother him. That means that they reached out to you. That means there had to have been some sort of collusion. They both were at the Bahamas. Indiana was there as well. So you know they're putting feelers out there. But for DeVries, watch what you wish for. This is a blue blood from 30 years ago. They still think that they're Indiana from 1985. They're not. So if you have 2 losing seasons in a row, you're going to be in trouble, right? I mean, they're going to be calling for you already. Half the fan base didn't even like the hire of him anyway. So, and I feel like he's just taking the opportunity while he has his son who has NBA potential, and it feels like he's just going to do whatever it takes to maybe put him and his son in what they perceive as the best positions out there.
It's a double barrel. It's a double barrel win here. We'll get to. I really want to hear what Nate has to say, but it's double barrel because he got all this money, and then God knows that now he's the coach negotiating NIL for his son. So what did his son get? Right, like $500,000. So it's like you get the gold on 2 ends, right? You get the bag of gold, you get the bag of silver. They get the NIL money for his son. It's got to be in $500,000, I would imagine, because they have all this money. So he got all this money for his son. He got all this money for himself, and he signed a 5-year deal with us and never intended to be that. It was a stepping stone. And the next coach that we get, we need somebody that's just not going to go there and say, okay, I can get my leapfrog to my next job if I do good. We're not a minor league team here. Okay. This isn't just, why don't we go here? Let's go to a junior college, and then we'll go to a D1, 3, and then go to a D2, and then, maybe we'll go to a mid-major. That pissed me off. I'm still mad about it. I still haven't gotten over it.
Nate, what a weird world when we're talking about college athletics and we're talking about a father taking his son for he's making $500,000 to transfer to another university.
I just threw that out there. I don't know what the.
No, I know, but it's just a weird world. This isn't the amateur college athletics that I grew up watching, but it's an interesting story and it hits on national. It's not just the West Virginia story this time, Nate, but it definitely was a shock for everyone.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a wild story in that, but also there's always this like outrage, right? It's like fans of teams and alumni of schools are like, my coach is the best and we're a good school. I mean, the amount of times that I've seen, like when Musselman left Nevada to go coach at Arkansas, like it was like, the same deal. We were, how could you ever leave Nevada? Like, how could you ever leave the mountains? You had your family here and then they're gone. And that's just the way that it works. Like, and for people to be like, West Virginia,
this has never happened.
Morgantown, West Virginia is a premier destination, and everyone would want to live there and put down roots.
Yes.
Hey, 3 sunny days. We have 3 sunny days a year. Calm down.
Well, but you got it's a great place to live and buy a company.
Well, I mean, is there at this point, and I'll throw it out there, if Huggy Bear's name came back into
no, you can't. You can't get
it's my favorite coach of all time.
You can't get drunk and like your car's on the side of the road and you're stumbling around. You just can't do that, man. You gotta lay off the sauce. The university had no choice. I backed him in that decision, and I did too. We all love Huggy Bear, but it's if you're gonna get drunk at home or get a Uber or something. Like passing out on the side of the road, you're a Big 12
in a state vehicle with just Miller Lights just falling out of the side of the car.
I mean, come on, man.
Back of the car.
You just can't do that.
No, I mean, for the next coach, it's Ben McCollum. Obviously, Drake's still in the tournament right now with their big victory, and we'll absolutely get to the madness. But I'm leaning a little bit. Chester Frazier, who's an assistant coach there, I almost want somebody with some loyalty. But we'll see how the coaching search goes. I feel bad for Ren Baker. He's got to fire up the private jet and fly around again and wine and dine people all over the country. I'm sure he wanted to have a little bit more relaxing time and watch some college basketball, but he's not going to get a chance. And but speaking of college basketball, and we were just talking a little bit about it, but the madness started with the playing games on Tuesday and Wednesday night, and then the tournament officially started Thursday and Friday. I took off work yesterday, sat around Buffalo Wild Wings with some boys watching all these games. Had to stop a little early because I had to do this today, so I was a little nervous. So I was like, all right, but the games have been fantastic. We've been one of the main, we talked about lacking some star power, but the number one star player that's probably going to be the number one pick in the draft is Cooper Flagg, and he had a high ankle sprain coming into this tournament. Looked pretty good yesterday. 22 minutes. He got by 14 points. I forget what he scored or whatever. So he looked pretty good. 22 points. They blow him out, and so I think they're going to be okay right there. You all, Matthew, what do you think about Cooper Flagg and Duke's chances? Do you think they're still the perennial favorite to win this thing?
Oh, absolutely. I thought for sure no point in playing him round of 64, round of 32. I said hold off to the Sweet 16. No, he Proctor was the only guy with more minutes than him. He came in, he put up the shots, he looked good, and I don't think they're looking for wins. I think they're looking for beatdowns. They did not miss a beat without him.
Cal, what do you think? You think Cooper Flagg just kind of milking a little bit? He's good to go.
I picked Florida last week due to the injury. And then I watched yesterday, and my opinion changed. I'm back on Duke. Cooper Flagg, 22 minutes, 14 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. I mean, he looked like the same stud he was before he fell 6 feet out there onto his ankle. I'm shocked that he recovered so fast because as a basketball player, that looked really scary. It was a really scary injury, but he looked like he didn't miss a beat.
Nate, are you on the Duke train? We didn't get your pick last week. Who do you think is your favorite? Who's your favorite for this tournament?
I guess Duke. I mean, can we talk about this phenomenon of like Duke players though getting carted off in wheelchairs for like pretty minor injuries and then coming back like almost immediately afterwards? Like this happened with Filipowski a couple of years ago. It happened again with Cooper Flagg, like where it's like just like a non-injury. But yeah, I mean, he looked great. Duke looks excellent. But I mean, I don't know. I'm always a little bit skeptical, I guess, of Duke just because the ACC doesn't show us a lot these days. I mean, North Carolina looked awesome one game and then just totally flat against Ole Miss. Clemson obviously gets upset. So I just don't know. Like the strength of the conference, like kind of concerns me a little bit. I guess. Like I don't feel like they're as hardened, but I mean it's also still Duke. So and they have to.
Yeah, I like that. I like that conspiracy theory you got going. I really like that. And of course, we all know Nate's not a conspiracy theorist. So like he doesn't really think the CIA killed JFK like I do. So you're not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm going there. I'm going there. Let's bring out the wheelchairs for our star player. And he comes back the next day, right? Maybe they've got this thing. Maybe there's some kind of a thing that, like they give other teams hope, or then you plan differently. Oh, he's not going to come back, so we don't have to really look at the film on him. I think you're onto something. I think they should hire you. The Trump administration should hire you to go over the 80,000 unredacted JFK pages. I want to get your thoughts on that. That's what you ought to be doing. You would go over that thing with a fine-tooth comb, dude.
All of my free time now that I'm not hosting the show.
My point.
And I think for all the Duke haters, you were kind of hoping like Mount St. Mary's might do a little something, but now you just see Duke just throttle them, gets to play a Baylor team that you looked okay, look kind of suspect too. So it looks like Duke's going to have an easy glide into that Sweet 16. But no, we're talking about some of the upsets, and Drake had their win. But no, John, Nate, Matthew, anyone chime in? What was your biggest upset of the weekend, or favorite game of the weekend, Matthew?
Favorite game
or
biggest upset,
best upset.
Totally different. As the Clemson alumni, Clemson basketball just amazes me. It's whatever you expect them to do. They are going to do the opposite. Duke comes in to Little John. It's like, Cooper Flagg, they're going to smoke us. We pull that out. This is the first tournament game, especially coming off of last year's Elite Eight run. I was like, McNeese, good team, but we'll wait. He's gone. Took the NC State job. He's a Clemson alumni. He schedules their practice around Clemson football. I was like, too much emotions. He has no roots at McNeese anymore. And we got bullied, absolutely bullied. And it was probably the most embarrassing Clemson basketball game I've watched in at least the last 6 years. So that was a tough pill to swallow for sure.
They tried to come back. They came back at the end.
Yeah, when you're letting dudes that are 6'4" dominate the glass the whole first half, you put up 13 points. It was inexcusable.
I mean, McNeese plays hard-nosed basketball. That's what they do. In the last 2 years, they got 30-win seasons. They did it back-to-back. Last year, I predicted them to win in the first round, and they let me down. But this year, I went with them again, and I was right. So this wasn't a big upset to me because McNeese and Will Wade, they're a great defensive team. And if you looked at them throughout the season, they were battle-tested, and they competed in every game. They lost to Alabama by 8 points. I think Mississippi State by 3. So they had some very tough games, and they competed in those games. But from a schematical and tactical point, the way that Will Wade guarded Clemson was so amazing to me. It made it my favorite game of the weekend. He would show his zone, and then he would tell them how many passes. If they throw 3 passes, jump into a man-to-man or stuff like that. I think from a tactical standpoint, that was my favorite game of the weekend. Upset, the one I was most surprised about was maybe Colorado State over Memphis. I thought Memphis would at least get a game. Colorado State is a very good team, but I was shocked by that game.
Yeah, Colorado State was favorite when you're looking at it, 12-5, and then I know people are talking about the snubs and stuff, but some of the seedings were kind of off. When you see a 12-5 matchup, and you saw Colorado State favored by 1 or 2 at one point. John, did you get to check any of the tournament out yesterday?
Well, listen, we were at obviously the baseball game that went on for 16 innings. I'm not going to tell you. I get up at 3 a.m. every day, so it was a weekday, so I didn't stay there for 16 innings. But a couple things I just want to mention. We have a new website that I encourage everybody to go to. Mitch is on it, Matthew's on it, Kyle's on it, Nate's on it. Just check it out, wvsportsnation.com, wvsportsnation.com. It is really a website designed to give you all West Virginia athletics every day. We've hired 8 writers. They're doing a super job. Mitch's columns are fantastic. Go to Mitch, please. And it'll take you a minute. It doesn't cost anything. There's no paywall. Just do us a favor. Help us out. I want you to get your feedback. wvsportsnation.com. Bookmark it, wvsportsnation.com, and check that out. Here's what impressed me so far. Watch the Bruins. Watch UCLA. The game that they played on a Thursday night, they blew Utah State out by 35 or 40 or something. This is one of these sleeper teams that you could see sneaking in there, and so I'm kind of high on them. They play Tennessee today. Tennessee is 5.5. I'm going to take the 5.5 with UCLA. I'm not a Tennessee believer. But I think the Bruins are better than a lot of people think they are. A lot of people gave them credit for. So that's my pick of the day.
Yeah, one of the games that was interesting was Kansas and Arkansas. I mean, all of a sudden switched to that zone defense and just completely stopped all the momentum of that game. But then Calipari and company pulled it out. The Drake, I like the Drake game. Yeah, UCLA was phenomenal. I'm just trying to think of Florida was impressive. I'm just trying to think if anyone else besides Duke and Florida for me are going to go take off and take this thing any further. But the one game that had me yesterday is, so my father and my family's from Birmingham, Alabama. My grandfather went to Alabama, so we just love Bama. My dad's alma mater is Robert Morris. So he finally gets his team into the tournament and then gets to watch one of the most exciting games yesterday. And
they played a tough game, man. They were hanging with him.
Shout out to Coach Andy Toole, man. He did a great job preparing for that game.
See, that's the guy I could see getting in West Virginia. I think you can go down with mid-major and get somebody like him that's, taking a team without a lot of money. He doesn't have the big NIL money. It's an hour away. If you look at what he's done with Robert Morris, I mean, to me, I think he should at least get a number of interviews here.
I mean, Absolutely. This is one season that was really good, but the last few seasons have been a struggle adjusting again to the horizon. So I would think that would be a tough sell to pick up Andy Toole. But how about Jared Calhoun from Utah State? I think that would be a great pickup.
Yeah, I do too. And I think right now, Ren doesn't need to be reactionary. Let's see how the tournament plays out too. And don't just grab somebody, just because it's available because we feel this pressure to do so as well. Kyle, I think you talked about Maryland last week. Julian Reese and Maryland, how far can this team go? I mean, they are so exciting, and like in our area, Maryland, when they're good, it's pretty much the most televised team in our area. But the hype around Maryland is palpable around here. I just want to know if it's real around the nation.
It's real. It's real. They got a Twin Tower things going on with Julian Reese and also Derek Queen. Derek Queen is, to me, the top five freshman this year. He's a lottery pick if he leave after one. They got good guard play with Gillespie. I think that Maryland is for real. I think that they're an Elite Eight team. On my brackets, I have them going to the Elite Eight. I think the hype is real. I think that if you buy into the Maryland train, you're not wrong.
Yeah. Nate, are you a New Mexico? Were you the New Mexico fan? I can't remember. It was someone around here was down in that area. New Mexico with an upset. They had their victory over Marquette. I thought they played well too. Can they make a little run?
I mean, I think they can. I mean, I've watched, I don't know, an unusual amount of New Mexico games, I think, for just like a normal person. And I'm always impressed by like their guard play, like in New Mexico, like Donovan Dent is incredible, and is the type of player that you see in March sometimes where it's just like they just start doing crazy stuff and like one person can just sort of like elevate sort of a lesser team like on its back. Like we see that all the time in the tournament. So, you know, from that perspective, like, yeah, like why not like New Mexico? I think as a whole, I was pretty skeptical of the Mountain West coming into this tournament just because there've been so many seasons. I'm a Nevada alumni. Like I watch a lot of Mountain West basketball. There's so many seasons where, you know, they get 3 or 4 teams in and everyone's sort of complaining, but they're, you know, their net rating is pretty good, blah, blah, blah. And then they just get smoked. They go 0-4 in the first, you know, round of the tournament, stuff like that. So I was pretty skeptical again, just because I've watched that happen so many times, especially after watching San Diego State just get dismantled against North Carolina. And then Colorado State and New Mexico go out and pull little upsets. You know, so what do I know?
John, it seems like it's the worst nightmare for the tournament committee right now happening because it feels like all the teams that got, you know, all the teams that got snubbed and the teams that got in, whether it be the 13th and 14th SEC teams or North Carolina gets, you know, clobbered yesterday. They tried to mount a comeback. There may have been one guy screaming quad one in Buffalo Wild Wings yesterday all day long, making a few North Carolina fans mad. But so you see North Carolina get out. Texas loses in the play-in game. Georgia doesn't look like a team that belongs either. So I think a lot of these Indianas and West Virginias that feel like they got left out and got the raw end of the deal, I think they're justified by the results in the first round.
Listen, Patrick Morrisey, governor of West Virginia, got on my show, I think earlier in the week, Monday, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, and absolutely lambasted the NCAA. He called it a corrupt organization, top to bottom, and went on to say that he's having his AG launch an investigation. Not that they could do anything about the situation now, but that the whole selection process is corrupt at the core. And he mentioned the fact that basically these, you know, 82 SEC teams getting, like the whole SEC, you know, all the SEC teams got in. It's just there's something wrong. And the whole North Carolina 1-13 against quad 1 teams. I mean, that was supposed to be a bellwether. I mean, I don't want to rehash it, but they got blown out yesterday. They didn't even belong on the same court in that game. And of course, a lot of us in West Virginia were rooting for them to get pasted, and they did. But you know, I mean, right now, you look at the SEC. It's just there's so much money. We talked about this a week ago. I'll turn this over to Matthew. There's so much money that these SEC schools have to pay these players that other conferences simply can't compete with. So it's almost like the SEC is becoming like the Dodgers of the Major League Baseball. Matthew.
No, I mean, you're spot on. You see it. Particularly, just I keep up with baseball a lot. LSU buys everyone. I mean, you saw it with Dylan Cruz. They've got everybody. They got Skeens. Got everybody this year. They got a kid from Atlanta, Jared Jones. They were able to convince him not to take third round money. Like, come on now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they do well with it. They got a kid from Utah Valley, stud, Daniel Dickinson. I mean, they buy the roster every year, and it's something's got to happen between the transfer portal and NIL. It's a deadly combo, but you got to figure out something there to minimize one of the two.
Yeah, because it's like you're a perpetual free agent. Like there's no contract, so you're a perpetual free agent. I mean, you even look here in West Virginia, Chase Meyer, even though he got tagged with the L last night, he's been phenomenal. I mean, you know, somebody LSU or somebody's going to offer him. He throws 99. I mean, he's going to get $200,000. WV can't compete with that. They just don't have that kind of money. So he's, you know, to me, he's like ride this season out because he's going to get, you know, 152 truck, you know, the whole bit. But I don't know what they're going to do. But it's with that open portal and the NIL money, and now paying players. There's so much money to be made in college ball, and the big schools have all the money.
How do these families and these kids have this energy? Like, and when I was in college, I just wanted to chill and relax a little bit. Like, how can you just always be like, I gotta go, I'm leaving, I'm going to the next school? Yeah, I mean, like, it just seems like a lot of moving. I mean, Javon Small was on his fourth school, right, in 5 years, and never went to a tournament, never saw anything except for, you know, some money out of it, I guess. I've talked about this before. Our buddies yesterday were talking about it as well. I think a silver lining, if they could ever figure out to make them sign multiple year deals so you can have your players at the same school for a couple seasons, because right now we are literally just rooting for, you know, for the school. I mean, West Virginia, case in point. I mean, they had one returning player last year. They're going to blow up this team and maybe have two next year. So you're not rooting for players anymore. And when we grew up, that's how it was, you know, and I don't know how you fix that, but I think if you know, money talks. And if you said, hey, I'm going to give you more money to stay here for 2 years, or that's the deal, each year, each deal is 2 years or more, or if you like back in the day, if you go into the transfer portal, you have to sit out a year. I mean, if you have that behind you still from 5 years ago, that's going to make people stop this ridiculous, just free flow of, like, how many transfer portals are, John, your son's in this world. How many transfer portals are there a year? Like 3? Like, can't you have one and just stop it?
I mean, it's everybody's a free agent. The coaches are now controlled by how much money you have, and basically, you know, to be a good team, you have to attract them in. I mean, I look at our baseball team. There's only a couple kids that are returning that are in that starting lineup. The majority of them came in from the portal, and that was driven by the fact that the Mountaineers got to the super regionals. That is going to continue. Until they change it, it is what it is. And, you know, and then you've got kids that are not getting the PT. I talked to Sabins about this when he was on my show Friday, is what do you do with it was on, Friday or Thursday. What do you think of, you know, how do you deal with the kids that are returning upperclassmen that are not getting PT, not making the travel roster, not making the conference roster? I mean, they were there for you in 2024. They're not playing in 25. I mean, that's got to cause dissension. So, I mean, the coach now has to work through all that stuff, you know. But the players know that they're only trapped in the system for one season. That's it. Like, if you're not getting playing time, pick any team, Alabama, LSU, whatever, Kentucky. You're not getting PT right now. That coach controls you until the end of May. That's it. Until that final out's made, you're free to go where you want. So it's a very, very tough situation now to be a college coach at that level, because you got to manage all that.
I can't even imagine having that much money. I mean, I worked at the Pizza Hut in Saberton, you know, I would get like $40 a night, and that would last me for 3 days. I can't imagine having hundreds, thousands, millions of dollars. Nate, I'm trying to fix the NCAA completely. We're overhauling this whole system. What are we doing? So when we go back to like the committee and the way they picked this tournament, obviously that was the big deal last Sunday. You know, we all work in business, whether or not looks can be everything, whether or not North Carolina's AD was really involved in that. It's just a bad look. It probably needs to have a different system where you don't have athletic directors from blue bloods picking their own team to go into the tournament. So how do we fix this? Could we get like a bunch of like the 111 bracketologists? Could we just get all the nerds and all the people on these radio shows the head writers, like, some that are a little more official that, maybe vote in Hall of Fames and stuff. Could they be part of this process so we can get it out of the hands of the ADs and such?
I don't know. I mean, so you get it out of the hands of the ADs, people that are like tapped into the sort of industry, and then you put it in the hands of people that aren't, as sort of part of that world. I think that that's sort of the danger. I mean, like, for me, yeah, like it's unusual. Like, it's an unusual circumstance, but there's 320 however many teams and 335 in NCAA Division I basketball. Like, he's the athletic director of one of those 335 teams. Like, is it an unusual situation that they were so squarely on the bubble? Yeah, but it's also big. This won't happen every season. This is getting a lot of play because the sort of circumstances aligned in kind of a funky way that make it look bad. But I mean, there's always going to be ADs lobbying for their team. Like, that's just how that's going to work. And I think that that's I like that solution better than just having a bunch of people that are retired that aren't tapped in anymore. Like, I don't want the Jay Billises and like Dick Vitales of the world like to be dictating this, or just like retired coaches.
We need we need Matthews and the Kyles, the young blood, into this mix. Kyle, how would you fix this NCAA selection committee problem?
I think that you go with the nerves. I think that numbers talk. You look at the net ratings, you look at those things. I think that you go with the nerves and let writers, senior writers, obviously, people who've been around the game for a long time, make up the selection committee. I think you go that route. But to ruffle some feathers, I think that the West Virginia argument, those guys weren't a tournament team today. The West Virginia team of today, without Tucker, is not a tournament team. They struggled down the stretch. That loss to Colorado, to me, almost made them not deserve to be in. I would much rather watch North Carolina play than West Virginia, excitement-wise. So I think that the West Virginia argument shouldn't be the only talk of it, but I think the 14 SEC teams getting in was ridiculous as well. I think the SEC is a little bit overrated. Money talks, like you guys said. ESPN been pushing SEC all year. That's all you see, SEC. And, I mean, I'm rooting for Duke, even though Duke is the only ACC team left. Even though Duke is the only ACC team left, I still think the SEC is a little bit overrated. I was thinking like 10 to 11 teams maybe. Definitely the best conference, deepest conference, I should say, but 14 teams was just a bit much.
It is, Matthew. It is ridiculous. Do you put a cap on how many teams? Because I've seen this in the mid 2000s. The Big East got 11 or 12 in, and then the 9, 10, and 11 teams all got crushed. Big 12 had that a couple times in this decade, and you saw like the Big 12. Those last teams that get in just don't go very far. So it seems like you just overrate the conference when it's that good, and that seems like it's what happened with the SEC this year too, right?
Oh, 100%. I think you kind of get that bias or that stigma of certain conferences are elite. But the biggest thing Kyle said that kind of caught my ear. I want to get into it a little bit, get your guys' opinions. So West Virginia not being a tournament team, I agree with that. But then it also comes back to the CFP every year. So I'm curious, do you think it's the teams that are the most deserving or the teams that you think are the best? Because that's typically two different things. I mean, that Florida State team went undefeated. Were they a top 25, top 30 team in the country? Absolutely not. They did all they could do. They won every game. I mean, what's the take there from you guys? I think there's a whole different thing.
That's a great point because you're looking at, because with the West Virginia argument, the Tucker DeVries argument, he hadn't played since November, and West Virginia amassed 4 quad 1 wins without him, but they seem to look at the teams and say, hey, you're missing your star player. Obviously, with Florida State in football, that happened. That's why, like, when we're talking about restructuring these committees, because look at all the nuances they use it here. They don't just use net. They don't use this. They also use the eye test and injuries. So it feels like that it feels like it just gives them any, they can do whatever they want and they can justify it by whatever means they want. And I feel like we need to get it down to something more finite where you can't do that. Like, if you go undefeated, you should probably go and play. You can't just go, oh, I know you're going to be bad because you don't have your quarterback in. Well, that's not how it works. John, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think athletic directors should be making the decisions about their teams getting into the tournament. I mean, that thing to me is it I don't know. They said, oh, that he didn't really, he wasn't in the room. Look, it's just a bad look. I mean, there's certain things. I'm in media. There's certain things that it might be okay. It's not a good look. That was not a good look. It was the appearance of impropriety was so blatant. Doesn't matter if he was in the room or not, and how he's a quality guy and he would never do that. Blah blah blah. And you can't prove anything, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I get all that. But the appearance of it stunk to high heaven, right? I mean, why is he he shouldn't even be on this selection committee. The guy's an AD of a school. I mean, I don't know who they put on these committees, but I'd rather have the 4 guys on this panel plus Jack doing the committee selection.
West Virginia, 2-seed.
Kyle, Jack, and I'll go with it. And you guys decide. I don't even know what the criteria is. Because they said all season about quad one, and North Carolina had 1 quad 1 win and 13 defeats. We had 6 quad 1 wins.
They were 8-0 in quad 2 though.
They were. Yeah, they love the quad 2.
By quad 3 team.
Well, and it goes to my point too. Like, and that's where. And we have writers that have different. I'm more emotional. Dan is analytical, and Dan did his article basically like, screw the quad 1 stuff. That's new stuff. He went into the nitty gritty of why North Carolina belonged. And that felt like something from like 2003. It was like, whoa. And I know it's not a good look, but you know what is a good look?
What?
Anyone that takes Healthy Cell.
I tell you what.
Tell them all about it, John.
I couldn't make the 16-inning game last night because I get up at 3 a.m. I couldn't stay up. I just had to go to bed. I think I went to bed about the 10th inning. I'm like, I got to go to bed. So we went back to the hotel, but I did have a chance to have cocktails last night with your father and with your mom, Wendy. So that was fun. Ann and I had fun doing that. Always good to see Todd and Wendy. But as soon as I got up, baby, I took my Healthy Cell REM sleep and I had the game on the radio, which is we're the flagship. So you can go to WVSportsNation.com. You can get them there. You can also download WV The Torch, get all the games there. Of course, it doesn't matter where you are. And I took my REM sleep from Healthy Cell. I put the radio on and I was asleep within a pitch. I don't even think I heard a pitch. And I was sound asleep, got my 8 hours in, got up today. I feel fantastic. And I tell you what, when you're getting up at 3 a.m. like me, you got to get 7, 8 hours, 6, 7, 8 hours a night, but it's got to be sound. And that's what you do with Healthy Cell REM sleep. Just go to healthycell.com/Godzilla, promo code Godzilla, get 10% off. Get REM sleep now. You will fall asleep within 10 minutes and have the best night's sleep ever. It's all natural and it's fantastic. Healthycell.com, promo code Godzilla gets you 20% off on your first order. 20% off. So they're giving it away to make you healthy like me. And Ann, and Joe and Jack and Claire and everybody else in my family. I got to give some to your father. Matthew.
I want to get everyone's opinion on this too. When the tournament starts, you're supposed to, I think, root for your conference, and I do a little bit, but I did especially after we got snubbed, so I was kind of rooting. But my hate for Kansas is palpable; it's real. They lose. Hunter Dickinson's finally gone. This kid. I may have had a play on Kansas. All of a sudden, he has like 4 turnovers in the second half. And it would look like the worst player on the court. He's done that for half of his career. It seems like Kansas, and it seems like the Kansas fans may also like that he's finally going to be graduating. Kyle, what are your takes on Kansas and their first time not getting out of the first round in forever?
This team just wasn't good. Like they just weren't good. Arkansas isn't that much better, but Arkansas was the better team on that night. I actually thought that Kansas was going to pull it out when they went into the zone for a second. It looked like Arkansas offense got stagnant and they had no answer, but they did enough to win. Feel bad for Adams. So Adams going down, that was a tough one. That was tough to see. You never want to see somebody, especially with an Achilles injury. That's just one of the worst injuries you could get in the game of basketball. As he go on and try to be a pro, probably play overseas somewhere. It's tough loss for Kansas. But Kansas, they weren't good. Bill Self, he got to get back to the drawing board because whatever he did this year, it never came together. Their freshman AJ Story he didn't turn out to be the stud he was supposed to be. Hunter Dickinson was always overrated. He got paid too much. So I'm happy to see them gone because they just didn't deserve to be there.
One thing that stuck out to me, Nate, when I was watching it, it was like even though the teams weren't that great, to see Calipari and Self, the coaching adjustments during that game were phenomenal, and like those two are on a different level. And like you said, when Kansas went to that zone, they only played zone 5 times all season long. And Cal gives the greatest post game, interviews right afterwards, and he basically was like, couldn't figure it out, we couldn't do anything, but we won. But just to be able to switch to a zone, and the fact that Self knew that would confound them that much, it's pretty amazing coaching.
Yeah, it was a great coaching. I mean, and like Kansas was like a funky team, I mean, they're number 1 in the preseason polling, and then they just, it looked like all the talent was there. And yeah, like Kyle said, they just weren't that good. Like for whatever reason, like all of the sort of transfers that Self brought in and freshmen that came in, like they just didn't, like they had talent. They just never were able to put it together. And I remember thinking, like, as I was getting ready to fill out the bracket and just sort of thinking about the tournament for the last few weeks, was like, it wouldn't surprise me to see Kansas get knocked down in the first round like they did. It also wouldn't have been that surprising to me to just see all of this talent just sort of come together and make like a really deep run to like the Final Four. Like neither of those outcomes were like terribly surprising because like you knew that, I mean, obviously the injuries, at the end of the season, sort of lowered their ceiling. But for a while before that, I was like, I have no idea what to think about them. Like, all the talent looks like it's there. They just can't seem to win games.
Absolutely. And it's going to lead to another amazing coaching matchup. And I know we're going to get into the pick segment next hour, but St. John's and Rick Pitino and John Calipari will be facing off in the next one. And St. John's, I mean, that's a team that I think, especially if you're in the hater side, you don't want to root for one of the blue bloods. You don't want to go Florida or anybody. I think St. John's has a lot of the nation's attention right now. Matthew, do you think they could actually make a run and maybe win this thing?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think today should be a good step. I'd be surprised if they didn't dominate Arkansas on the boards. Got a pretty big size advantage. They're going to take care of business today, I think. Yeah, I mean, veteran guys, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they hold up, but they've got the team to do it for sure.
Cal, they're a unique team because Cal, I mean, even Pitino goes, hey, you look at all the metrics, you look at all the stats, it doesn't all add up for us to be this dominating 2 seed, but RJ Lewis Jr., they have some studs on there, and it feels like they know how to collectively as a unit pick up the pace of their defense when needed. And so the stats might not tell the whole story, but when you watch St. John's, the eye test does.
Yeah, they're a hard-nosed team. They play hard. That's a start. The effort that they give and the toughness, the grit that they show, the adversity, the resilience, they just figured it out. But that also comes with age. I think that the age of their starting lineup is up there, and that helps out too. They got a lot of experience. They got some grown men sometimes playing against 18, 19-year-old. Rick Pitino went out and he played the game. He got a good transfer group, a transfer portal. He hit the transfer portal. He did what he needed to make the team just a tough-nosed, hard-nosed basketball team that any given night they could go out and beat anybody, and that's including the Dukes and the Floridas. St. John's is a team you have to watch out for because the toughness, I don't think it's a team that's tougher outside of the Houston Cougars in the country than St. John's.
Yeah, not a lot of talk about Houston because they play that, we got some golfer, and we got Nate, who's golfer, Houston has that boring game, right? They put 280-yard drive down the middle, put it right on the green, 2-putt every time. Houston has, 4 players that average 10 to 12 points a game. John, is Houston not getting enough hype right now? I think.
Well, I bet him to win.
Hyped them up all year.
I bet him to win the tournament at 7-1. I like those odds right now. Defense. When you play that kind of defense, you can beat anybody on any given night, anywhere. Doesn't matter what it is. When you can shut a team down like they do, and the way they've the switching. If you watch their switching, I mean, it's lightning fast. Like you can't get an You can't get an open look on this team. That's number one. You can't get inside. You got to beat them with the 3 ball, and then they got fast enough guys to get out there. When you look at even how they defend that, it's just like, it's not fun basketball if you're looking to run up and down the basketball court or whatever, like I did when I ran that that offense I did, where you got to score 150 to win. So it's not exciting, but I think, look, I don't want to play them. Anybody that's playing them does not want to play the Cougars right now with that defense. So I still think they're going to win the whole thing.
And then Kyle was talking about having grown men. Speaking of, BYU is a pretty darn good team. It seems to have older players on their squad a lot of the times. Igor Demon is a stud, and BYU got off to a slow start this season, but once they started to pick it up about midway through conference play, Nate, I think BYU is one of those teams that you can watch out for, and if you're rooting for your Big 12 conference, get behind them and see how far they can go. Do you think they have a chance to do something special here?
I mean, I don't know. BYU is like the opposite. So we've been talking about Houston, great defensive team. We've been talking about St. John's, great defense. And then we get to BYU, and it's not very good defensive team. Like they had bad metrics just in their conference, like they weren't great. Just in the Big 12, much less sort of the country. So, I mean, I think that, they could maybe sneak in, I think there's a path to like win, maybe one more game. I don't love the matchup against Wisconsin. Wisconsin's been playing great. But I guess it wouldn't shock me to see BYU in the Sweet 16, but any further than that, I mean, teams that, profile well in the tournament are more like St. John's or Houston, than BYU just catching some sort of offensive heater and outscoring everybody.
Yeah.
You look at Purdue. Purdue got a pass here, right? Who are they playing today? McNeese State. So on paper, Purdue should win this game, right? But McNeese State look really great. But here's what gets me, guys. Why is Purdue only 6.5 in this game? Right? I mean, they're playing a 12 seed.
Kyle's chomping at the bit.
What, Kyle? Why are they only 6.5? Why? When I looked at that, I actually had to put my glasses on because I thought, is that 16.5? And I looked again at 6.5. Why is it only 6.5, Kyle?
McNeese State will win today.
Whoa, love it.
Yeah,
love it.
McNeese State will win today. I think that athletically, they're the more athletic team. Defensively, they're one of the best defensive teams in the nation. They don't get enough talk about it because of the conference they play in. They're in the Southland Conference, but they held Alabama to 72 points this year. We all know the offensive juggernaut that Alabama is. They held Alabama to 72. They only scored 64 because they're not a great offensive team by no means, but they held Alabama to 72, as well as they just held Clemson to 67, and it should have been even lower than that. So watching McNeese this year, defensively, they're going to have Purdue's number. Purdue's not going to score enough, and McNeese is going to dominate the glass. So when you watch this game today, you'll see why they're only 6.5 underdogs, but McNeese State for the win.
So you think I should take the 6.5, Nate? I mean, you're kind of the basketball guy here. What do you like the 6.5 here?
I mean, I like McNeese too. I'm with Kyle. I mean, Purdue, I thought would have a really tough game against High Point. I wasn't sure they'd win that game. I mean, I'm just not really ready to get off of like that sort of opinion that I have of Purdue just not being that good of a team. I just don't see it. They look super tired coming down the stretch. I mean, they lost they lose 5 of the last 7 games ending the regular season. Like they just didn't look like a great team towards the end of the season. And I mean, nothing's changed my opinion on that. So, I mean, I think, yeah, they're totally, ripe for an upset here against McNeese.
All right, you're listening to Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. We're actually doing picks this week. We're going to do picks in the second hour. I can't wait for that. I'm assuming everybody's done some brackets so far, except for a couple, 12 seeds, which happen, and 11 seeds. There haven't really been any bracket busters yet right now. How's everyone's bracket? Anyone having a good bracket right now? Matthew, how many brackets do you have going right now?
Ended up doing 5.
Five.
Was off to a good start. Yeah.
What's your strategy? Like what's your strategy there? Like heart, chalk. How do you get 5? What do you do?
There wasn't much of a strategy. I was invited to 5 different brackets, put in a different one for each one. Kind of wrote a couple Cinderellas in each one. So I need New Mexico to keep on trucking. Somehow get past Tom Izzo and the boys. Not sure if Drake's going to pull it out against Tech, but wouldn't mind it.
Cal, how many brackets you got?
I got 6 brackets going right now. I actually have 3 of them in the 97th percentile, so they doing pretty good. My strategy was pretty much pick the same picks for most of them, but a different winner at the end. So I have Florida winning one, I have St. John's winning one, Houston winning one, and Duke winning one. But on my Duke one, I need Houston to lose today to Gonzaga. So we'll see how that go.
John, are you a brackets dude?
I'm Johnny Chalk. Yeah, I got old chalk going. Yep. So, as long as the chalk keeps winning, I keep winning. It's pretty easy.
Nate, are you in? How many brackets do you got going?
Like 4, I guess. I mean, and the strategy is different for all of them, right? I mean, like some of it's rule dependent. Like I play in one with some friends down here in Texas where you get like a bonus point for every seed differential. So like, first round game's worth 1 point, but if you pick a 12 over a 5, then you get 7 bonus points to go with that 1 point. So it's like an 8-point win. So like for brackets like that, you're almost just picking like every 12 seed, because it's like 8 times as much as just picking the favorite if you win, in terms of points gained. So, that's different for one I do where there's like 4,000 entries at this bar in Reno. I had a buddy like do it for me remotely. Then you just pick crazy stuff. Then you just have to like look at it and be like, who's the most viable team that nobody else is going to pick to win? Because that's the only way you win there. Right. So like for that one, I picked St. John's because like that's what you have to do. Florida or Duke isn't getting you any money.
That's true. Okay. All listeners, pull out your brackets, get them out for the second hour of the show, because we're going to go pick the second round games, all of them throughout the hour. I'm so excited. We haven't done one of these pick shows since like week 17 of the NFL season. So I'm truly excited. First hour has been great. You're listening to the Godzilla Wins Pick Show. We'll be back right after this.
You're listening to Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network. For a deeper dive without the jive, visit the website of winners, GodzillaWins.com. Let's get back to the show with the guys in the know, John, Jack, and Nate. It's Godzilla Wins on the John Fredericks Media Network.
All right, welcome back to the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. First hour talked a lot of NCAA basketball, some West Virginia. We're also brought to you by WVSportsNation.com. So for all of your West Virginia sports needs, you got a one-stop shop. Just head over there anytime you want. Another one-stop shop. Have you ever been to MyPillow? Have you ever been on the MyPillow website? I know John has. And John, you talk about all the slippers and stuff like that. I see stuff for pets too. Like I can make my dog comfortable.
Oh, right now we got a cat bed for Sammy because he doesn't sleep in it. He'll sit in it and then jump in our bed right in the middle of me and Ann, spread out. So I got to push him over the other side, and then he like growls at me, pain in my butt. But listen, MyPillow's got a mega sale going on right now. It is super mega. It's the biggest sale ever. You can get 2 MyPillows $14.98. They got free shipping going on. right now. This is one of the biggest sales you're ever going to make. You get your Giza sheets. Those are discounted down. This is the overstock sale because Mike Lindell, who runs My Pillow, this is a cash. He runs a cash business because nobody will give him any credit for whatever reason. He's a great guy, but the savings get passed on to us, and he's been a sponsor of the show from the beginning. And look, we can't pay our people without the sponsors. I mean, as simple as that. We can't bring our show to our audience without the great sponsors we have. Mike Lindell's been there from us from day one. I called him up and asked him. He said, "Great idea, sports show on Saturday. I'm for that. Sick of politics. Why don't we do that? I'll go ahead. I'm in." He's never wavered. So look, go to mypillow.com/Godzilla. You're going to find something there. The dish towels, the towels, everything they have is fantastic. And it's all tremendous savings. And it's great stuff. We have it all. Go to mypillow.com/Godzilla. Promo code Godzilla. Going to get you the great savings there. Just do that for yourself. Do that for us. If nothing else, get the towels. The towels are phenomenal. I just took a shower in this hotel. Normally, I travel with a towel. I just forgot it. I was in a hurry getting out of DC. So I had to shower up in one of these hotel towels at the Marriott. It's like, oh my God, what is this? It's like paper. It's awful. It doesn't even absorb you. I want my Pillow towel. Check these out, guys. MyPillow.com, promo code Godzilla. Do it now. Mega sale of the century right now.
All right, you're listening to the Godzilla Win Pick Show. I'm your host, Mitch Rogers. That was John Fredericks, joined also with Matthew Lumsden and Kyle Carrington, ready to bring hour 2 of the show. And we're going to get into a lot of picks as the second round is going to be starting at noon today or 12:10 today. Capping off an exciting first week of the March Madness. So super excited. I was going to start in the South region. Might as well take it in a timely time. The first game in the South region is Michigan and Texas A&M, 4 and 5 seed. This looks like one of the best matchups on paper, especially in the eyes of Vegas. A 2.5 point spread here. Kyle, what are your first thoughts on this game, and do you have any picks for it?
I'm going to take Dusty May in Michigan. I'm going to go with the 2 7-footers. I love Buzz Williams and the A&M Aggies, but I think that Michigan pulls this one off. If I was to give a pick, it's almost pick me, so I'm just going money line Michigan, even though they're 1.5 underdogs. Just money line Michigan, lay it. I think you come out victorious.
I like that. And from a gambling perspective, John, this is when it gets a lot more fun. The first round's great, but you get a lot of mismatches. You know, 16s and 1s, 15s and 2s. You get a couple. You know,
and you're laying 18 or 20 or 19, and that's just not.
Now we can have some fun today.
Now we can have some fun.
Yeah.
So I'll stick. Look, I'm going to bet conferences now. So I'm just going to bet the conference. I don't think Texas A&M. I think all these SC teams in there is a clown show, like we talked about earlier. I'm going with Michigan here. I'm going to take the 2.5. I'll take Big Ten basketball any day of the week.
Ooh, Matthew, what do you think about Big Ten basketball right now?
I think they're hot. I'm also on the flip side of this one. I think those Michigan turnovers are going to catch up to them eventually. They don't protect the ball very well. And if I had to go with a comp in a Big Ten, I'd say the physicality of A&M. They're not quite the team, but I'd say it's a Michigan State stylish. And you saw them play Michigan twice this year, handled them by 13 and 17. So I think the turnovers should catch up to them.
Yeah, I like that too. I have the same feeling here. Michigan and the turnovers. Texas A&M plays that physical style, but you're right. It's more like a pick 'em today. But I'll take Texas A&M with those points as well. That's going to be a really good game. Also in the South, you're going to have what is the perennial favorite. The team that, a week before the season ended, you were talking about the best regular season since maybe Kentucky's undefeated season. Then they lose 3 out of 4. They kind of stumble in. It's Auburn. Do you think Auburn has righted their wrongs and is going to take care of business against Creighton today, Nate?
I think so. Yeah. Auburn's just got too much talent. Johnny Broom's just too good. You saw them, stub their toe for a little while against Alabama State. That was not like a 20-point victory just from start to finish. Alabama State was pretty game for a lot of that in terms of trying to stay in it. But, and that was because Auburn was just shooting a zillion threes and missing a zillion threes. And then they started to get the ball to Johnny Broom. And then, you give it to your 7-footer and suddenly scoring gets a lot easier against a sort of smaller team like Alabama State. But yeah, I think they're they're going to be fine. I think that they'll beat Creighton. I mean, I wasn't blown away by Creighton before the tournament, nor was I blown away by Louisville. That doesn't look like a part of the bracket where Auburn gets tripped up.
Yeah, Kyle, do you think Ryan Kalkbrenner has enough to overtake Auburn today?
He has enough to slow down Janai Broom. I think that if you want to get into a 3-point shootout, you don't want to get into one with Creighton. That's not the game you want to play. Depending upon how Auburn comes out and play, I think Auburn takes care of business, but I'm laying Creighton plus 8.5.
I like it.
Give me the points.
Taking some points. 8.5 is a weird spread in college basketball too. Matthew, what are you doing here?
No, I couldn't have said it better myself. I think Auburn probably takes care of it, but I love the 8.5 from Creighton. I think Kalkbrenner's a force in the paint. And then Neal had himself a fantastic first round. You saw how streaky they can get from three. Went on that 19-2 run to close the half against Louisville. Auburn comes across one of those 19-2 runs. I don't think they're going to pull it out, but I love the 8.5, and I think Creighton could be a live dog today.
John, what do you think?
I've won a lot of money in these tournaments betting on the Blue Jays in these middle rounds. I mean, I don't know how they do it, but with 10 minutes to go in this game, it's going to be tied, right? 10 minutes to go, you're going to look at that score. It's going to be 2-3 or tied, or Creighton behind or up by 2 or 3. They do it season after season after season. This is going to be no different. This is a trap game for Auburn. And so I love Creighton. They're very loose. They're a very well coached team. They just hang around these games. All they got to do is hang around. Just hang around. And I'm gonna take the 8.5. And I wouldn't be blown away if the Blue Jays pulled the upset, because Auburn has not looked that good down the stretch, and they didn't look that good earlier in the week either. So when all of a sudden, do you turn it on? If you're not turning it on now, when are you going to turn it on? I like the Blue Jays here. I wouldn't be shocked if they win the whole game.
Yeah, I think it would be just Creighton shoots. I mean, with Auburn, I mean, for Creighton to win, you got to shoot almost 50% from the field. And I feel like when you play a team like Auburn, who is great on defense, that's going to come to a head at some point. I like the points. I think, I'm just going back and forth on this. I just don't think Auburn's going to pull it out by more than 8.5. So I'm going to go with Creighton in the points. I think Auburn squeaks it out. I hate taking a team that I don't think is going to win. But I like Creighton here as well. Talk me into it. Let's stay here in the South.
What did we get? Nate's?
Yeah, Nate did the first one. I got him in right when he came in.
Sorry, Nate.
I didn't get it. Michigan, Texas A&M. Nate, what do you think, real quick?
I'm a big Aggies guy. I think that's my favorite spot for the whole day just of games. Is I love A&M here. I mean, I thought that Michigan was going to lose to UC San Diego. They ended up barely winning that game. Which was annoying, but I just don't think Michigan is a good team. I really don't. And if you're going to sit there and hang Michigan minus 2.5 against UC San Diego, and then you're going to make, Texas basically a 2.5 point favorite over Michigan, that line just feels ridiculous to me. I mean, to intimate that UC San Diego and Texas A&M are even in the same sort of ballpark is crazy to me. I just feel like A&M just blows their doors off.
Michigan won a Big Ten, man. Come on, some respect.
Keeping it in the South. Let's go to Michigan State and Nate's New Mexico. Michigan State feels like you don't even hear about them all season long. They kind of just fly under the radar, and then boom, 2 seed in here and doing what they do. What Izzo likes to do is just put tournament teams in and make runs. Gets to face a 10 seed in the second round. Do you think New Mexico has enough to take them out today, John?
No. Come on, guys. I mean, this, no, this is, to me, look, we all like to root for the underdog, but there's just no way that they win this game. Not in the conference they play in. And I know we talked about, that some people think their conference is a lot more competitive. It's not, and they're gonna get blown out today, I believe.
Matthew, we got a 7.5. Michigan State's favored by 7.5. What do you think here?
I would have liked 9.5 for New Mexico. No, I think New Mexico is going to keep it closer than John thinks. I think Donovan Dent's a stud. I think dude puts the ball in the bucket. they're sneaky defensively, and it's hard to bet against a Patino in this. So I like New Mexico to cover, honestly.
Kyle, what are your thoughts on this?
We got the Donovan Dent and Nelly Jr. Joseph show. The 2-man game that they got going on is pretty special. With that being said, I love watching them play against Marquette. No way. Michigan State -7.5, lay it. Michigan State wins by double-digit points. Donovan Dent not enough for Jace Richardson and DeFeer's brother. Michigan State dominates this game, in my opinion. So we rocking -7.5. Big Ten is underrated. Nate,
Big time.
Can Izzo play some?
Big
Can
time.
Izzo pull some magic off with this Michigan State team? Could they make a run?
they're going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could do worse than just pencil Izzo into the Sweet 16 pretty much for every time he's in the tournament.
When it's a playing game, yeah.
I mean, but look, the Big Ten is getting the shot here. I mean, I'm going to go with Big Ten teams. It's that conference, day in and day out. Those guys, the physicality of that conference is unbelievable. These banging on each other every day. It's kind of the way the Big 12 is now. So I mean, I love it. Nate said, I mean, if you just bet Izzo to go to the Sweet 16, you could retire every season. He always gets there. I just don't see how this thing is even close. I think it's going to be 20-25.
All right. The next game we're going to do is the hater game for all us West Virginia. This Big 12 versus the SEC. You got Iowa State and Ole Miss facing off today or tomorrow. But the point spread. What is the point spread for this one? 5.5. Iowa State is favored by 5.5 here. Iowa State has looked remarkable. They've come into this tournament playing really well. Nate, do you think Ole Miss has a chance to go on a run or get to the Sweet 16? I
mean, I think I'm surprised that Ole Miss won their first round game against North Carolina. Like, I didn't think that would happen. So now I don't know what to think about Ole Miss. I mean, gosh, what did like dream sort of like path for Iowa State so far? Like, you play Lipscomb, you destroy, and then
I didn't play Ole Miss,
Carolina, and then you play Ole Miss. Like, I mean, it's a pretty dreamy, seeding as far as Iowa State, like being a 3 seed goes, like in terms of like matchups. Like, I feel like they probably cruise past Ole Miss as well. I mean, I see Kyle shaking his head.
Kyle, what do you think? You can just jump right on.
I'm Ole Miss. Ole Miss on this one. I'm taking Ole Miss. I'm taking the points, but I would actually, if underdog play of the day, I'll take the money line. I think Ole Miss wins. They got 6 guys averaging double figures on the year. Iowa State is down Keyshawn Gilbert. That injury is big time. That's going to come back and haunt them. The death of Iowa State in their guard play. Matthew Morrell, man, he's a mo. And then you got Sean Padula. I mean, hey, Ole Miss, give me Ole Miss.
Matthew, are you riding the Ole Miss train too?
No, I love me some Sean Padula. He might be he's about all the ACC has to offer right now outside of Duke. Got that Virginia Tech guy coming over, so good for the conference there, I guess. But I'm with Nate on this one. Ole Miss, I mean, they jumped out. I think they were up 20-22 at one point yesterday. They started just absolutely blazing hot from the field. I think you saw that settle down in the second half, and I think Iowa State covers the 5.5.
Yeah, I like Iowa State here. Curtis Jones behind the 3-point line has been phenomenal. So yeah, I think Iowa State, and I'm gonna stay with my Big 12. I'm staying in the conference, John. I'm going to
Rebs, baby. I'm taking a 6.5, and I'm with Kyle. Look, I went to the WVU, Ann and I went to the WVU Iowa State game. That played, by the way, that game rocked in Morgantown, and they got those big guys in the paint, and that's when Javal Small basically took the game over with 5 minutes to go, scored like 8, 10 and straight. It was a great game. But, I mean, I saw West Virginia University beat them and when Gilbert was playing. And so Ole Miss, they spread the ball around. Gilbert, I don't know if he's going to play or not, but, we beat him with Gilbert there. I mean, they're a big, strong physical team, but the Rebel, when you spread the ball around and I'm with Kyle here, you got 8 guys that can score against, 2 guys that could basically score inside. I think this has got upset written all over it. Go Rebs, baby. Take the 6.5. What is it? 6.5, right? I'm taking that all day long and more.
I'll tell you what, if you're out there, put in your bets today, but sometimes you don't want to just do some basketball bets. You want to play some games. John, right down the road from me, about 30 miles north, is Rosie's Gaming. And I know you want to speak them up because they are one of our top sponsors.
Spent last weekend there at Colonial Downs. They had the spring meet, which, guys, was just phenomenal. I had the suite there on Friday. Many of our fans were able to come and join us, so we thank you for that. Ann and I had such a good time. We had the big Virginia Derby on Saturday. I did not get the winner. They get an automatic bid to the Kentucky Derby, which we're going to be at as well. But Rosie's Gaming we had such a good time. We spent the whole weekend there. We got there. I did my show there Friday, so we did Friday, Saturday, and went back on Sunday. It's such a great place, and the machines there have let me say it again, the lowest takeout of any slot machines in the country, the lowest state takeout, which means more money for the players. And it's just fun. I mean, I'm not a slot machine player. Ann went down there. She had a fabulous time. It's just a great atmosphere. And then you go upstairs, you got all the OTB, you got the off-track betting there. It's just such a great experience. And they're all over the place in Virginia. In fact, in Loudoun County, right off I-95 in Northern Virginia, they have a new Rosie's with a major hotel. I haven't been there yet, but we went past it going back to wherever we were headed, Washington. So we got to step in that. rosiesgaming.com. Go to rosiesgaming.com. Have fun, win money. It's a great place to be. Don't forget, horse racing starting again mid-July. We'll be talking more about that. We'll have our suite there. Will I move my company there again from Washington? Probably not, but I'll be there a lot. Go to rosiesgaming.com, rosiesgaming.com. Tough to get me out of Washington, D.C. right now.
That sounds like a fun Saturday, though. Put your bets in on whatever app you use.
It's fun, man. It's so much fun.
I'm sure it's on the TV somewhere.
Yeah, they got all the TVs up there. It's just, it's so much fun. Have fun, win money, rosiesgaming.com.
All right, we're going to keep these picks going. You're listening to the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. We're going to move on to the East region right now. There's only one game today in the East region, and that's my team I've hyped up already. So you know where I'm going to go with this one. This is BYU, Wisconsin. BYU, like I said, started off slow. They do have some defensive issues, but it seems like when they can fill it when they get going. Nate. BYU, Wisconsin. Wisconsin looks to be favored by 1.5 on the site I'm looking at right now. What are you thinking today?
I like Wisconsin today. This is one that I actually, have looked at, and Wisconsin is a team that I kind of liked coming into the tournament. I was pretty high on them, going into the Big Ten tournament. Obviously they lost in the championship game, but I think that Wisconsin is a better team than BYU. So I'm rolling with Wisconsin here. I think that they're probably not getting the love they should. 1 point, 1.5 points. I like Wisconsin here.
I think you have a fellow Badger up above you right here, Kyle. I know we already talked a little BYU. You going with Wisconsin as well?
I'm rolling with Wisconsin. I think John Tanji was arguably the Big Ten Player of the Year this year. He didn't get it. Colorado State transfer. John Blackwell, Stephen Crow. They got guys. They got dudes. And BYU, if you can't stop teams from putting it in the basket, Wisconsin is not the team you want to see because they put the ball in the basket. And I'm rolling Wisconsin -1.5. I would have took Wisconsin if it was 6.5. So for big Badgers.
What's the average?
Kyle's coming in hot today. I think everyone needs to be writing his picks down because
I got them all written down, baby. You got it. I got them all. I got them all written down. I haven't missed one. I just dropped my pen. I got so excited about his picks. But then I also wrote Matthew's picks. Matthew's a professional, right? We all do this for fun. We have fun. But Lumsden up there, I asked him, I said, what do you do for a living? And he says, I gamble. I'm like, come on, dude. He says, yeah, I make a lot of money. So, you know what? I stick with him. When you do it professionally, that's pretty good right there. But listen, guys, what is the average age of the BYU basketball team? Was it like 26. I mean, these guys are they're like grown men with families in there. You go to their baseball team. I mean, they're all like 27 years old. Like I don't even know how they're still playing. I guess they take time off to do the Mormon thing, right?
Go on the mission,
mission thing. But then they got like children and families.
Well, then they've also had the COVID year too. So that some of them are
like 28 years old.
And in other sports, there was like a 28-year-old. But I digress. I can't wait for the COVID years to go away too. So we don't have 7-year players anymore. It sounds like it could be a little bit of a shootout though, Matthew. What are you thinking in this one?
I think either Kyle or I are going to have a great day because we've been on the opposite end of, I think, about everything. So
that's true.
Well, one of us, we're going to have a great day. I like BYU. I agree with almost everything Kyle said, but I think if they get the threes to fall, they're going to win. They've got them to fall for, I think, 10, 11 games in a row now. They run a pretty deep rotation. They got, I think, 8 dudes were getting double-digit minutes on the year. I'm going to stick with it that the threes keep falling. Now, if they don't, that 6.5 that Kyle was talking about would probably easily cover, but I'm gonna bank on him to stay hot today.
I just don't see it. I mean, when it's 1.5 and you're betting a very legitimate team that really could have won the Big 12 tournament, the Big 10 tournament, and now you're playing a team with the average age is 27 or something, and you got to rely on the 3-ball. That to me is just not a good bet. So I'm gonna go with the Badgers minus the 1.5.
Yeah, I'm with Matthew. BYU obviously has to stay hot beyond the arc. You also have to stop John Tonje, like Kyle brought up. That could be the best player in the nation right now, or one of the top 5 players in the nation. So you got to have some good defensive tactics against him. But yeah, I'm just going to go. I already hyped it up, so I can't go back now. So I'm going to go Big 12 again. Yeah, Big 12 homer over here. I'll take BYU also with the points.
No shot.
Staying in the East. You got Alabama and St. Mary's, and this one, when you on paper, you'd be like, Alabama's going to be favored by 10, 11. No, only 5.5. Alabama is favored. And Kyle, is that because Alabama can't even spell defense?
That definitely a defensive reasons. And then after their not promising win over Robert Morris, that don't help either. But St. Mary's can't run with Alabama. It's going to be a lot of points scored on Alabama's side to very little scored on St. Mary's side, in my opinion. I think Bama minus 5.5 is one of the plays of the day that I'll take.
Nate, when I see 148.5 over under, that means they're saying that potential Alabama scores 100 and the other only scores 48. That's kind of what Kyle's analysis went. That's a weird over under when Alabama is involved, considering they average 90 plus points a game.
Well, it's funky to set a line because, you have Alabama that plays at the fastest adjusted tempo in college basketball. They're number 1 in tempo. And then you have St. Mary's that is 360th in tempo. So it's funky to set a line from that perspective because you have almost you have St. Mary's that wants to grind out every shot clock down to basically under 5 seconds. And then you have Alabama that, wants to just sprint up and down the court. So it's a fun thing to think about stylistically. I think that if St. Mary's can, it's typically easier for teams to sort of slow the game down than speed it up. I think if St. Mary's can just play their game, I don't know why they can't hang in this. I mean, they've been great all season. But I don't know. Alabama's just fun to watch.
This is my second best bet of the day. Alabama, lay the 5.5 all day. When I coached basketball at the high school level, I ran the Paul Westhead offense, right? You guys all remember him. It was just a 2-minute rotation, 5 in, 5 out, 5 in, 5 out, 5 in, 5 out, push the ball. Didn't play any defense, didn't care. I just had to outscore the other team. That was it. 100% press whole game. That's all we did, right? When we would play a team that had this kind of a defense that said, we're going to stop these guys, we're going to grind it out. I don't think I ever got beat by one of those teams ever, right? Because you're just too fast. And so you're beating that zone, you're beating that defense. This is going to be a blowout. they're not going to be able to stack up with the speed that Alabama has in this game. And yeah, they're going to grind the ball out for 30 seconds every possession. And as soon as Alabama gets the ball back, boom, they're gone. And there's going to be turnovers, and they're going to press. And this is going to be a 25-point win by Alabama.
Kyle, what do you think? What do you think about 25-point win by Alabama? Alabama is definitely going to dominate the offensive boards, I think, here too. Which will help with their defensive struggles. Kyle, what do you think here?
I'm thinking like 15 to 20 points too. So I'm in that range.
Spreading them down. Oh shoot, Matthew's coming in. Matthew's coming in with the Gales.
But
WCC.
I was going to say, this ruins the whole trend of the day, because I would have loved to just back St. Mary's, continue just being polar opposite. But I mean, I'm concerned about Alabama's defense, as I think everybody is. But I'm also concerned with how St. Mary's plays. If they find themselves down 10 points in the first 10, 15 minutes of the first half, I think the game might already be over.
Bingo.
If this turns into a track meet, it's going to get ugly. And I think it's going to get ugly fast. And I think unless St. Mary's can get to the final 10 minutes of the game, keeping this a 6-7 point game, I don't see how they're going to stick with them. Because I think as soon as it gets ugly, it's just going to escalate. So unfortunately, I'm going to ride with everybody here. I'm gonna join it. It's definitely Bama minus 5.5 on this one.
I'll join it too. Roll Tide, Bama 5.5. Yeah, I think there's a lot of recency bias, right? Or recency line here, because you just saw them struggle against Robert Morris. Typically, a solid team that has this much experience in the tournament will bounce back and play the way they're supposed to. Listening to the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. I'm Mitch Rogers, joined by John Fredericks, Nate Perry, Matthew Lumsden, and Kyle Carrington. Matthew and Kyle just firing off opposite picks, fading each other, just coming with the analysis, loving it today.
This is what I love about this format. We've got Nate Perry back to his roots. This is his roots. Picking games, giving his analysis. This is where Nate Perry is at the top of his game. Great to have him back on the panel, making picks, not doing a host thing where he's got to manage all the advertisers and everything. Just get in there, baby. Give me your picks. Do the Nate thing, and we're good to go.
It's so much better.
It's so tough. I'm sweating. I have sweat coming out of my pits. This
like
is
a
tough,
week
guys.
ago, Jack was
it's
like,
fun
"Oh,
now.
you got to host it." I'm like, "What? I got to do what? I'm not doing that on Saturdays. I do that all week. No way. It's hard. So this is fun. You just get to get on and talk sports. It's so much more fun, Nate.
How did I let you guys talk me into this? It was so much easier when you would just ask me stuff.
That's because Ann asked you, because Ann asked you to do it. If I had asked you, you would have said no.
We're going to stick in this East region. But so you got Duke. We talked about Duke right after we talked about George Foreman and Cooper Flagg's injury. Cooper looked like he wasn't injured. He looked a little hobbled up, but it's something that doesn't seem that's going to be a problem. But Kyle, you play basketball. The fact that he's coming off 1 day rest with a high ankle sprain, that's got to be a little bit tougher, right? Is there any pause on taking Duke on the second weekend games, moving through this tournament?
I think Duke find a way to come out victorious, but I think 11.5 is a lot of points for a Baylor team coached by Scott Drew.
Mm-hmm.
You got Jeremy Roach going against his former team. Looking at all of those things, I'm going to take Baylor plus 11.5. So I'm rolling Baylor plus 11.5. I don't think Duke continuous trend of blowing out everybody. It's going to be a tough game. They grind it out. They win by 5 to 10 in that range. And Baylor plus 11.5.
Smoke and mirrors, dude. Come on. They're smoke and mirrors. I mean, they shouldn't be in this tournament either, right? West Virginia should be in the tournament. They shouldn't be in the tournament. This is going to be another blowout. Who's going to stop these guys? Baylor's going to stop them? Who is going to stop the Blue Devils? And look, I'll get back to what Nate said earlier. Their wheelchairs come out and they drag him off the court. And he's on the next day. He was probably playing like ping pong after that thing. I think it's ridiculous, right? Cooper, they got the best player that's going to go number 1 in the draft. Number 1, no doubt, best player. He's going to be playing NBA. He's going to be a star. And I'm going to bet Baylor. Are you out of your mind? Blue Devils, 10, 15, 20. I don't care what it is. They are going to roll here. Baylor is a fraud. I'm going I'm going with Duke.
Nate, is Cooper Flagg's ankle a little tender tomorrow at 2:30, or do they just roll through just like John and Kyle think?
I mean, I kind of am with Kyle a little bit on this. It feels like the back door's open. 12 points is a lot of points. I mean, watching Duke in the ACC tournament, so they beat Louisville by 11 to win the ACC tournament. Okay. They beat North Carolina by 3 after leading North Carolina by like a zillion in that game. And then they just barely hung on. So, I mean, Duke has been winning games, but it's been closer. They beat Georgia Tech by 8. So there's, they're not exactly blowing teams out unless it's like Mount St. Mary's, which that's not like a real team. So,
hey.
So from the perspective of 12 points being a lot, it is a lot. I think Duke wins, but I think if you're looking to bet it, I mean, there's always a chance Baylor just kind of hangs around and covers that number.
I let Matthew go last because I didn't want him to jump on the opposite of Kyle right away. So let him stew on it for a little while. You fading Kyle here? You're going to be just hoping
Come
Baylor
on,
hangs
Lumsden,
around?
what's your pick? Let's go.
Yeah, no, I was stewing, and I'm just glad we've got back. The world's right. We're going to go opposite ways. I'm here with John. I love Duke. Baylor's 320th in pace from Ken Pom. I think that's going to be similar to St. Mary's, Alabama. They get behind. I think it's going to get ugly. They don't rebound very well. They certainly can't defend the 3. I like Duke by 15, possibly upwards of 20 or more.
I'm going to jump on the Duke
He's
train as well.
Matthew Lumsden's a really smart guy. That's why he's a gambler. That's why I go with this.
Just bet on Cooper Flag. Can't go wrong.
Just bet on Cooper Flag.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right. People that do it for a living, I'm writing their picks down. I mean, I guess we do it for a living too. That's why you're listening today. All right. Yeah. So, all right, staying in the East. Last game in the East is another Big 12 matchup, so you know where I'm probably going to go. Arizona versus Oregon. The spread for this one is Arizona 5.5. Nate, what are you thinking on this one?
I mean, I think that I guess Arizona. I mean, I was pretty skeptical of Oregon as a 5 seed. I mean, I thought that Liberty would probably give them a game. That didn't end up happening. So maybe I'm just not seeing Oregon clearly. But I think Arizona probably is. I think Arizona gets through here.
Kyle, what do you think? For some reason, we've become the Big Ten love show right now. So here's another Big Ten team that has an above 500 record in their conference. So I know where you're going. Where we're going. Big Ten?
You're actually wrong.
Damn.
You're actually wrong.
All right.
I'm going to fade. I'm going to fade Dana Altman and his creative defensive strategies today. I'm rolling with Arizona. I love the way that they played against Akron. Caleb Love only took 9 shots. I think if we could keep Caleb Love between 10 and 15 shots and not shooting them out of the game, I think the Arizona have a huge chance. I think they're the better team, better athletes. We go on Zona minus. Is it 5.5?
5.5.
Earlier, I think 4.5, but
3.5. I think now.
Oh,
3.5. Yeah, I seen 3.5 too. So.
Oh yeah, 3.5. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I'm taking Arizona 3.5. So.
Oh yeah. Once I clicked on it, it says 5.5. It's moved. Yeah, I like that. Some line movement too. Got to do the analysis on that. I'm not sure how that plays into it. Matthew,
I was gonna say you can hold off a little longer. Maybe it'll get down to 2.5 for me. But no, Kyle, spot on. I think Arizona's the better team. I think as long as Caleb Love doesn't go in there and put up 30 shots trying to be a hero, I think they're a significantly better team. I wasn't high on Oregon. I was with Nate. I thought Liberty might give them a little bit of a struggle. Far wrong on that. But yeah, I think Arizona should get it done. I think 3.5 is a pretty nice line to go with.
All right, John, you've been big. Where are we going here today?
Cats,
12,
baby. We're going. I'm not betting the Oregon Ducks. Come on, man. The Cats are. I saw them playing Bahamas. WVU beat them that game. I'm not sure if it might have went to overtime. I know it was a very close game. But they're a good, well-balanced team. And back then, of course, the Mountaineers had the coach's son playing. But I like the Cats here. I just – look, I normally am going to bet a Big Ten team, but, is Oregon really in the Big Ten? Is that, real? I'm not even sure if it is. I'm going to go with the Cats, and I'm going to lay the 3.5.
Very good. Very good. We're going to be moving on. Which region are we going to go to next? We're going to go to the West Quadrant. But before we do that, John, I mean, I just see hair just popping off this I mean, just coming
Come
in,
on, man.
flowing in.
Do I look? Hey,
You must be taking like native
Lumsden.
path, collagen.
I gotta get this. In fact, I'm gonna just I brought an extra one for your dad. I'm just gonna give it to him, right? I was gonna see him tonight. I'm gonna see Todd, your father, and I forgot to order it last week. I got so busy in DC. I'm just gonna give him one because look, I'm 67, man. Tell me, come on, Nate, don't I look great? Right? I've lost weight. I feel better. I'm doing 63 push-ups a day at like 3:30 a.m. I've never been able to do that. It's because I take collagen. Collagen is the number one protein you need. Over 40, it depletes from your body. This is what Dr. Chad Balding taught me. And because he comes on my show all the time, and my whole family's on it. It does wonders for you. And you're going to find that your color comes back, your hair is going to grow back. It's fabulous for your skin. But the main thing is, it's the protein you need in your bones to get those joint soreness out. All you got to do, it's so easy. There's not even a promo code. It's $1 a day. It's $1 a day to feel better. Are you nuts? Come on, man. All you got to do is go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla, getnativepath.com/Godzilla. Put 2 scoops a day in your coffee, tea, drink, whatever you have. 2 scoops a day. It's $1 a day. 2 weeks, you're going to feel better. And I look great. I feel great. I got all this energy, all because I get a good night's sleep and I take my collagen every day. And that's what turned me around because I've lost 45 pounds. I'm doing push-ups. I'm more mobile, right? I mean, it used to be tough for me to get up and down stairs. Now I feel fantastic. So I'm going to get Todd on it. He's going to be looking fantastic too. It's all going to happen. All you got to do is go to getnativepath.com/Godzilla, $1 a day.
You can tell it's working. I mean, Matthew and John were watching WVU baseball until 2 a.m. last night, and they're fresh as a daisy this morning, ready to go
I
right
went
now.
to bed, dude. No, I didn't watch it till 2 a.m. I went to bed.
No, Matt, right before we came on air, Matthew was like, "Did you catch it?" I was like, "No, I fell asleep. I definitely fell asleep. I was trying. I tried my darndest to do it." But yeah, let's move on. You're listening to the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show, doing picks all this second hour. Back to our roots, right, Nate? It's fun. Let's move.
It is fun to get Nate back to his roots, man. It's my favorite part of the show.
Where am I going? Am I going to the? Oh, I got to go west. I got to go. Oh, yeah. All right. I had it up. Okay. I'm back. All right. We're going to go west. We're going to start with Texas Tech and Drake. Kyle, will Texas Tech be Kendrick Lamar to Drake today?
I'm rolling with
right behind me. I got that.
I'm rolling with Ben McCullum on the line. +6.5 Drake. I'm going to lay it. Man, that guy wins. He's a winner. Everywhere he go, he win. That's what he do. I'm rolling Drake +6.5, but I wouldn't be surprised if Texas Tech wins the game. It's going to be a close one, but Drake's +6.5.
John, are we kind of rooting for McCollum to lose so Ren Baker can get on his private jet and fly over and try to hire his butt? Or
yes.
Are we rooting for him to win so it's a better hire?
No, let's get the Drake coach here on WVU. I think he'll like West Virginia. Look, I mean, nothing wrong with Drake, right? I mean, they're in the middle of Iowa somewhere. I'm not even sure what town they're in. I know I went there once when I was with the campaign when we were campaigning in Iowa, but I can't remember the town. But yeah, I think they get beat here. But on the other hand, this is the only game I'm not going to touch. I don't know who's going to win this game. Drake is always tough here. Texas Tech, I mean, a Big 12 team. I mean, they played a tougher schedule. I don't know. 11.5 too many. I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to let it. I have no pick, but I want their coach.
Yeah, we do. Nate, it seems like Drake, when they don't turn the ball over, can beat almost anybody, but they average almost 10 turnovers a game. Can they solve those issues and give Texas Tech a game here?
I mean, I think so. I think that, Drake's shown us that they can be, compete against good teams. I mean, they showed us that when they beat Mizzou. I mean, they've showed us that a lot. And, teams that come in out of mid-majors that play pretty good defense, that can shoot the heck out of a three and slow the game down and really limit possessions for their opponent, can do well. That's a formula that we see, double-digit seeds bring in that works. You just shoot the heck out of some threes and try and, not turn it into a track meet. So, I mean, from that perspective, I think that it's, hard to conceive of Texas Tech really sort of just blowing them away. I mean, I think that I'm inclined to take Drake plus the 6.5 and just, slower paced game. You just hope they hang around.
Absolutely. Matthew, I've been waiting for this game all day so I could throw a Kendrick Lamar reference in. So my day is complete. What do you think is going to happen here in this game?
Yeah, no, I'm with Kyle on this one. So we're finding common ground here.
I'm hating it.
Drake was my team going into it. I'm not going to go away from it now. I love Bennett Sturts. I love what they do. I'll be curious to see if they can contain JT Toppin. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the country for Tech. Kid's a stud, but I think it's a few too many points for me. McCollum's a winner, and I think he's going to get it done today. They'll cover the 6.5.
Yeah, did I hit everybody? Yeah, I'm it's Texas Tech, it's Big 12. We know where I'm going.
You're just going to go with every Big 12.
Hey, man, you're chalk. You're the chalk bracket guy. I'm going to be the Big 12.
I don't like this game. It's like ever have one of these games is like whoever I bet is going to lose. Like if I take the 11.5, they'll get beat by 12. If I lay the 11.5, they'll win by 9. I mean, I'm just going to lose that bet. Sometimes I get that feeling. I just don't touch this game. I don't like it.
All right, you're listening to the Saturday Pick Show with Godzilla Wins. We are in the West bracket picking the games right now, and let's stay with the game that's going to be today. St. John's and Arkansas. St. John's is favored by 6.5. Does Cal have one more ride in him, Nate, or run?
I mean, I keep looking at this, and I think that St. John's gets through. I mean, I think we kind of talked about this. It's such a fun sort of coaching matchup. This sort of old school, Pitino versus Cal, has this sort of late '90s, early 2000s feel to it. But I think that St. John's just has too much. I mean, I think that St. John's is built for this tournament with the toughness, with the sort of defense and physicality and the experience that Pitino brings to sort of shepherding these teams through. They look like a more finished product than Cal's Arkansas team does.
John, doesn't it seem like Cal and Pitino just have new life? Because they used to be a little suspect on how they would get players, but now with the transfer portal and nil, they're just allowed to do everything that they have been suspected of doing their entire careers. So it's like they've had this second resurgence because they're allowed. Now they're doing what they've always done, and they're the best at it. They've been practicing, paying players for a long time, allegedly, John.
Yeah, gone are the days of them just leaving programs in shambles behind them.
Yeah.
I guess it's like smoking pot in Colorado, right? I mean, one time it was illegal, and now you just go in the store and buy it.
Get on the breck and go
and smoke it or whatever. I'm not into it, but it's kind of like that. Yeah, what was illegal is now legal, and so now they've legitimized what they've been doing for 30 years. That's a great analogy. Having said that, look, it's tough to bet against Rick Pitino in these games. I mean, the coaching experience. I mean, how old is this guy? 90? I mean, I remember when this was years ago. I was with my dad, and I was getting married. And it's 30, 40 years ago. I don't know how long I've been married, a long time. And Rick Pitino was coaching Providence, and he got in like the Elite Eight or something. And I remember my father saying to me, watch this Pitino guy, bet the Friars today. My father gambled, everybody knows that. So he bet Providence. That's got to be 30 or 40 years ago. He's still coaching. I mean, you can't bet against Pitino in these games. St. John's, that defense he's got is suffocating. I'm going to go with the Redmen here.
Man, John Calipari looks good. He must be on the native path, the healthy cell. I mean, he's in his upper 60s, looking good. Kyle, I'm going to let Matthew go first because I think you're just like, I'll let Matthew take this lead here, see how you guys go against each other on your picks on this one. Matthew, what do you think here? St. John's going to make a run here?
Yeah, I like to switch up, allowing me to set the table for him. But I think based on earlier in the show, I'm assuming we're both going to be on St. John's here. They're older. They got better defense. They're going to be significantly better on the boards. Arkansas was, I think, 12th in the SEC in rebounding margin. That's not going to cut it against a team that's gritty, plays good defense, and is significantly just older, more experienced. I think St. John's wins in pretty convincing fashion.
All right, Kyle, you fading them?
I would love to keep the trend going and fade them, but I'm St. John's all day. These teams are night and day. You got Calipari with young guys like Boogie Flan, Carter Knox, these younger guys, Adutiero still sophomore, DJ Wagner sophomore. It's the youth is going to kill Calipari today. They got some great athletes, some talented kids, but they still make too many mistakes. And if you're going to make mistakes and turn the ball over, the team you want to play again is not St. John's, because they're going to force you to make mistakes. It's going to be a lot of unscripted points for St. John's in this one. Offensive rebounds, forced turnovers, points off turnovers. I'm going St. John's heavy on the -6.5.
Do you think Calipari's in the lobby of the hotel with chairs figuring out the zone defense? Because now that he's been exposed, why not switch to a zone if their team starts doing well? So once you have that.
St. John's don't need a zone.
No, yeah, that's true. They're not going to play.
They don't need no stinking zone.
One of my favorite, staying in the West, one of my favorite matchups of the weekend is going to be Colorado State and Maryland. We talked about Maryland, how exciting it is with the 7-footers. Colorado State yesterday was favored as a 12 seed, and they did not disappoint. John, what do you think here? This is very exciting game. This is one of those not typical blue bloods. Maryland was big in the late 90s, early 2000s. Colorado State, just two teams that seem to be on the up that not a lot of people are familiar with.
So the producer of the Godzilla Win Show, Al Green, has been with our company for 14 years. Our company has been in existence for 14 years. So Al Green has been with us from the beginning, every day, never wavered. And so Al loves the Terps. So in respect, our producer, my long-term associate at the John Frederick's Media Network, Al Green, smooth out. I'm going to go with the Terps -7.5. Al, don't say I didn't go with your team, the Terps, Al. Just remember that.
All right, Matthew, what are you thinking here with Colorado State and Maryland? Pretty exciting matchup today.
Colorado State's biggest guy is 6'8". Maryland's got 2 units down low, and they are studs. I think this line should probably be 9.5, if not 10.5, and I'd still be very confident taking Maryland. I think they're in a completely different class, and I'd be very surprised if Reese and Queen don't dominate this game today.
All right, Kyle, what do you think?
Heavy Maryland. I mean, everybody said it. Couldn't say it better. Size differential, too much for Colorado State. So we going Maryland -7.5. I agree with Matthew. I would have laid it if it was 10.5. So heavy Maryland.
Yeah. I'm going heavy Maryland on here as well. And so was that? Oh no, we got one more, right? We got one more in this. Yeah, we got Florida and UConn. UConn's had that up and down year. Florida, we know what they've done. Came on strong at the end. All of a sudden, when Auburn's struggling, Florida became kind of the talk of the SEC. They seem like they're the heavy betting favorite when you're looking at the ESPN bracketologies too. They have a lot of people picking Florida right now. UConn, though, obviously wins national titles. Started off slow, now coming back. Kyle, what do you think? You think UConn can keep this momentum and have any chance?
I think it's disrespectful to have 9.5 points for a Dan Hurley coach team.
Yeah.
I'm taking that 9.5 any day. They 13 straight wins in the tournament. They're on a 13-game win streak in the NCAA tournaments. They got the best coach in basketball, self-proclaimed, and I agree with him. I think that if UConn could keep this game within four or 5 points with 6 minutes left, Dan Hurley, coach's wizardry, comes out, and I'm actually going to say UConn for the upset.
Oh, man, I'm going right to you, Matthew. What are you thinking right here? I mean, he's right, though. He's right. I mean, this is the most – I mean, Hurley's have been in my life forever, and this guy's the most annoying one out of all of them, but he wins. He's a good coach.
No, he is, and I love UConn as much as the next one, but we're getting back to our roots here. I'm going with Florida for sure. I think they're too balanced. I think this UConn team's gotten by a little bit on reputation, obviously back-to-back. Going for the three-peat. I think that's carried them a little bit here, and I think Florida handles this game with relative comfort for sure.
John, are you taking this game? Oh, little microphone issues right now for John right now, but I mean, with Florida and UConn, I'm with you. It seems like a good story. It seems disrespectful for a Dan Hurley team or for a Hurley team to be to have that many points against them. But I don't know, Kyle. I'm feeling you today, buddy. I'm gonna take the points, and I'm gonna go with UConn as well. All right, we got one region left. the Midwest. Is that what we got left? Yeah, the Midwest. We're going to have to go kind of quick. Got 7 minutes left. You're listening to the Saturday Pick Show. I'm Mitch Rogers, joined by John Fredericks, Matthew Lumsden, and Kyle Carrington. Going to bring you the last 4 games of the second round right before the Sweet 16. And let's just start it off. I mean, Houston and Gonzaga. Gonzaga has had one of those up and down seasons, similar to UConn, right? A name, a mid-major, not anymore, but a mid-major that's always in the running, always in there. And they've struggled a little bit this year. Houston, like we said, it's just ho-hum, takes care of business and does its thing. Matthew, do you think Houston prevails here today?
Yeah, I like Houston for sure. I think the 5.5 is probably being covered as well. I think defense wins games. Defense wins championships. Like everybody keeps telling me, all these older people, defense travels. So I think it's an interesting stylistic matchup with the dominating defense against, I think Gonzaga's the second highest scoring team in the country, but I think Houston's getting it done.
Nate, have you put much thought into the Gonzaga-Houston game? It looks like on paper it could be a pretty good one.
Yeah, I mean, I like Houston here. I think that there's some interesting spots in this bracket to try and sort of knock a 1 seed out, earlier. I think that Creighton's sort of an interesting move if you're playing in sort of a big bracket contest. I think that, even UConn's maybe sort of interesting to try and get ahead of Florida, but Houston isn't a team that I see losing this early.
Kyle, are we going to have an upset today?
I'm gonna break it to you. I'm going Zags plus 4.5.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a really good game. Had to get back to our roots. Had to fade Matthew, but Mark Few versus Calvin Sampson. We got our another classic coaching battle. If anybody can adjust to Houston's defensive blitzing and coverages, it's going to be Mark Few. They're shooting the ball very well. I think Houston go cold today. They depend on making 3-pointers along with their defense. I think we get Gonzaga. If not an upset, once down to the wire, we close game, 1-possession game. So I'm going Zags.
At some point, the bracket needs to be busted somewhere, right? Someone, 1 or 2 seed has to go out this weekend. Why not it be Houston? I might as well. Hey, Cal, I'm just going to keep it with you, with McNasty, with McNeese and Purdue. I know you love McNeese.
You know where I'm going with this.
I know, but I want to hear the analysis why McNeese is going to defeat Purdue today.
Defense. I mean, defense win games. Defense win championships. We got McNeese State and Will Wade. This team is motivated. Even though their coach is leaving them, he's going to spurn them, and he's going to go to NC State. There's a lot of older guys. It don't even affect a lot of these guys. But you got a guy by the name of Brandon Murray who's been with him since the LSU days. He's going to have a huge game versus Purdue. Purdue athleticism is a weakness of theirs. They're not a super athletic team. And McNeese State, they have freakish athletes over here. We're going McNeese State money line, not plus 6.5 money line, and lay it. Remember this.
John.
I'm gonna take the 6.5 though, because look, you got to win the bet. I don't take money lines when I can get 6.5. I just want to win the bet. Although I do appreciate what you're saying. Gonzaga's not going to win this game, guys. You're dreaming. That's because you picked the wrong bracket or something. Cougars are going to win this game. No question about it. Look, I saw Gonzaga in the Bahamas. West Virginia University beat them by 8 in the Bahamas in overtime. So, look, they're just not that good. And the Cougars' defense is so suffocating. They're not gonna be able to get anything inside on them. And yeah, I mean, laying points with the Cougars is always risky, especially at the end of the game when they start hopefully getting foul shots. But Cougars are not going to get beat by Gonzaga. They're gonna win this game.
For the radio listeners out there, when Kyle was going the other way with John's pick to win it all, it was just funny to watch you want to just say something so bad, but couldn't chime in yet. So no, yeah, I know, but I don't know, man. I'm going with Kyle today. I'm just loving this stuff. John? What do you think of this McNeese? I mean, Kyle's got us hyped up. Like I'm taking a super athletic team.
I'm taking the 6.5. That's the first one I got written down. I'm going to go with Kyle here and take the 6.5 all day long.
Nate, you doing the same?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, High Point did not have a lot of defensive answers for Purdue, but I think that McNeese will. I think that, after seeing Will Wade, against Clemson in the first round with the defensive stuff that we've kind of talked about earlier in the show. I mean, I'm interested to see what tricks he has up his sleeve this time around. But, McNeese is a team that's built to knock down, sort of good teams. I mean, they relentless on defense, force a lot of turnovers, make teams uncomfortable. They crash the offensive glass to get extra attempts. That's the formula for winning in March if you're sort of a mid-major team. So, I love it here against Purdue.
And Nate, how much money have you made betting against Matt Painter and Purdue in these tournaments? Right? I mean, it's like they just never win them. I mean, they got in the finals, I think, one time, and Virginia beat them on that 3 at the end of the game. But I mean, they just never get there. So you just can't believe in a team that never gets there. So
it's true. All right, guys, we got like 30 seconds left and 2 picks. That's my fault. I was trying to get this down, but all right, Illinois, Kentucky. Kentucky is favored. Oh, Illinois is favored by 1.5. Matthew, what say you?
Kentucky.
All right, Kyle.
Illinois.
Oh, yes. Let's go, John. What do you think?
Illinois.
Illini.
All right, I'm gonna go Kentucky right here. We're just
there we go.
The tiebreaker. All right, the final game of the weekend is UCLA Tennessee. Tennessee favored by 5.5. Nate, what do you think on this one?
Tennessee.
All right, John, where are you going?
Bruins.
Oh, I knew that. Kyle, where are you going?
Tennessee.
Come on, Matthew.
I can't do it. It's Tennessee.
Oh, they couldn't. The Fade boys couldn't keep it going. Well, hey, we want to thank everybody for listening this week to the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show. Up next on this network is the Jay Delsing Golf Show. He's one of the best in the business. I hope you tune in for that. It's been super fun. Having a fantastic March Madness, and we'll see you all next week.
Great job, guys. Thank you.